What is going on, everybody? What is going on, The Catch fam? My name is Jon Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. In today's video, we have got the 6th overall selection in a 10-team PPR mock through the ESPN platform. If you guys do enjoy today's content, be sure to hit that like button on the way and hit that subscribe button. Of course, if you're new to the channel, we put out free daily fantasy football content. At the moment, we are running mock drafts nearly every single night on the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have any mock draft requests, as well as what you guys end up thinking about today's draft as a whole. And of course, if you have any questions pertaining to the 2022 fantasy football season, drop them down below. Without further ado, let's hop into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. All right, so sitting at 1.6 overall for me, I'm just going with the best available running back or receiver in a 10-team draft, and then I am switching between running back and receiver, letting a quarterback fall to us and letting a tight end fall to us. And if worst case scenario happens, we will just fade quarterback and tight end to get value at the end of the draft. All right, I mean, Justin Jefferson sitting here at 1.6, there's no way I'm going to pass him up. I'll take JJ all day long at 1.6, and at the 15th overall selection, I will go with the best available running back. Certainly happy to take JJ off the board at 1.6. We've seen him go as early as 1.2 in our mocks and even in some of our real drafts here at the channel. So Jamar Chase is gone. Dalvin Cook is gone. Let's see what happens as we move in to the second round. Looking at the board, the player that I would be ecstatic with as my RB1 at the 15th overall selection is, without a doubt, DeAndre Swift, who's ranked as 15 overall. But we'll see what happens. Devontae Adams off the board, Najee Harris off the board. That'll do it for the first round. Into the second round, we've got Stephon Diggs off the board, and we'll just kind of see how this thing shakes out. There goes DeAndre Swift off the board, so he will not be on our team. Alvin Kamara is gone for me. It's Joe Mixon. I would love Joe Mixon here as our RB1. There's a high chance he is selected here, and he is. No need to panic. I mean, there's still plenty of value running backs sitting around. I mean, I would have been way happier with either Kamara, Mixon, or Swift as our RB1, but we end up kind of with this tier, right? Fournette, Javonte, James Conner, Aaron Jones. Let's go with Leonard Fournette as our RB1, and then we'll just continue to load up at running back and receiver for the rest of this draft. I can live with that. I mean, Fournette really had a great year last year. The only concern for me with Fournette moving into the season is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line as a whole. But we can look at the start of this roster with Fournette as our RB1 and JJ as our wide receiver 1 and just start to think throughout this draft, maybe receiver is where we hold the most upside on this team, and maybe running back we lean against a little bit in terms of our upside. I mean, JJ is going to lead the receiving room, so we're already in a great position, but we'll see how things turn out. Tyreek Hill off the board. Debo's gone at 17. CeeDee Lamb is off of the board. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think Andrews or Kelsey are going to fall out to 26. I mean, if they're sitting there at 26, I'm not going to pass them up, but in most 10-team drafts, I'm just waiting kind of to the mid-rounds to later rounds to let a good value tight end somewhere between Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert to fall to us. If we miss that tier, then I'm happy to take Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, Cole Kmet, any of those guys at the end of the draft. Really, for me, if you miss out on Andrews, Kelsey, or Pitts, you probably are just better off waiting until the end of the draft and continuing to load up at skill positions overall. All right, so Aaron Jones, Mark Andrews off the board there to wrap up the second. Into the third round, we got Javonte Williams, Travis Kelce, James Conner, Mike Evans gone. So for me, looking at who's available, I mean, I know I said this is the other thing, right? With this strategy, you can deviate, right? If you start running back and then receiver, you don't necessarily have to go receiver again with your next selection. You just want to keep in mind RB receiver is your main strat. So what I think makes the most sense here is just to go running back and to take Saquon Barkley off the board. Get us some upside behind Saquon Barkley because we're probably going to need it. Just with, I mean, the offensive line for the Bucs is concerning me. I'm not trying to knock Fournette too much, but I really like, I mean, now that we've got Barkley here, I really like the addition of Fournette as our running back 1. I wouldn't have minded getting James Conner and Barkley, but you just don't know if Barkley's going to be available there, right? So now looking at pick 35, here's the other point to make in terms of going running back there. I think Barkley just holds way too much value to not take him, where when we look at receiver, like we've got a ton of value from DJ Moore all the way down to like Chris Godwin. We've got all kinds of players we can select here. So For me, at pick 35, I'd love to get Mike Williams as a wide receiver 2 on this team behind Justin Jefferson. I think that'd be an absolutely great start. And I really think just going for upside players at receiver might be the move for this team now that we've got, JJ solidified as our wide receiver 1, like I said earlier. So Cam Akers gone, Michael Pittman gone, T. Higgins gone, Nick Chubb is gone, and into the 4th round, we start things off with Kyle Pitts and Jalen Waddle. So I think no matter what happens here, we end up with a great wide receiver 2 behind JJ. DJ Moore, AJ Brown, Scary Terry, Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, the top available receivers as well as the top available players at the moment, and they all offer great value as a whole. So we get a little bit of a silly, this guy's just probably taking a bad player than exiting the draft, but we'll just knock that. We'll put a little asterisk right here at pick 33. Maybe AJ Brown isn't available. Maybe Scary Terry isn't available. So let's push back everyone's ADP by 1 spot. And regardless, I want Mike Williams here, so I'm happy with that selection. As a whole, there's certainly an argument for any of those other receivers. I think Deontay Johnson is actually going to be extremely consistent this year. I'm not worried whatsoever about the quarterback situation. It's not like Ben Roethlisberger was playing lights out football last year, although he had a very good chemistry with Deontay Johnson as a whole. But nonetheless, let's move along into the 4th round. We still are. So J.K. Dobbins is sitting here. So at pick 46 for me, I think we bounce back to the running back position. If we can land Zeke there, that would be phenomenal, but I don't think he'll be available. For me, it's Travis Etienne as our top target, as Zeke is off the board, AJ Brown's off the board, and Scary Terry is off of the board. So if Etienne falls out here, don't be surprised if he's not available. Seriously, Etienne is going way against that ADP of 49 overall through ESPN. He is a running back that fantasy managers want, but I think he's the perfect selection if we can land him at 46 behind Leonard Fournette and Saquon Barkley. If he's not available, Josh Jacobs, Eli Mitchell, Breece Hall become kind of that next tier for me. So looking at receivers, once again, we just have so much value hanging around at the wide receiver position. I'd be happy with anyone from Hollywood Brown to Hunter Renfrow, truthfully, as our wide receiver 3 on this squad. So Etienne is available. Let's take him off the board here as our RB3. Perfectly happy with that. Then at 55 overall, we are just going to take the best available receiver and stick tried and true to our strategy. Let's take a look at the tight end position, see how things are hanging around. And you still got Waller, Kittle, Schultz, Hawkinson, Goddard, and we're about to start the 6th round. Looking at quarterback, you still got Patty Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. So we still got really an elite tier hanging around as well. So for me, I'd rather hold off and land a Dallas Goedert a little bit later. I'd rather hold off and land a Joe Burrow and or Trey Lance a little bit later, even a Matthew Stafford if it comes down to it. So I think we're still in position to continue to just stack up at running back and receiver. All right, 4th round, you got Dobbins, Zeke, AJ Brown, McLaurin, and Deontay Johnson gone into the 5th. Josh Allen, Brandon Cooks, Monty, Cortland Sutton, Josh Jacobs, ETN, Breece Hall, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, and Darnell Mooney gone into the 6th round. We'll start things off with Hollywood Brown off of the board. So I like Metcalf here. I like Gabe Davis. I like Chris Godwin, even if he's not ready week 1. So I think regardless, as there's only 2 more picks until we select here, I think we're going to end up with a great wide receiver 3. And at pick 66, I have a feeling we're going to be going running back or receiver. I'd really like to land Allen Robinson on this team as well, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to fall out. He's ranked as 73 overall, so there's definitely a possibility, but he is just a player that fantasy managers are targeting early and often, but having him as a wide receiver 4 would be absolutely phenomenal. So Godwin is gone off of the board, so we're going to end up with Metcalf or Gabe Davis, and Metcalf is gone. So I'm perfectly fine drafting Gabe Davis here as our wide receiver 3 behind JJ and Mike Williams. Like I said, let's go for some upside plays at receiver since we've got one of the most consistent players who also brings a high ceiling on a consistent weekly basis in Justin Jefferson as our wide receiver 1. And I think in full PPR, our running backs are looking great. Fournette, Barkley, and ETN bring a lot of PPR value. That is one thing. Even if the Buccaneers' offensive line is relatively concerning, Tom Brady and Fournette had a great chemistry last year through the air as well. So Mahomes is gone at 56. Allen Robinson, like I said, is just a receiver that fantasy managers want. He is gone at 57. Justin Herbert is gone at 58 overall. Eli Mitchell gone at 59 overall. We've got one more selection here in the 6th round before we head into the 7th round. So now looking at receivers, I love Hunter Renfrow, man. And full PPR, I absolutely love Hunter Renfrow. So Drake London wraps up the 6th round. Into the 7th we go. For me, it's probably Hunter Renfrow as the top-rated player available for our roster. I like Elijah Moore and I like Devonta Smith as well. So Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray start off the 7th round. George Kittle is gone, so that run at running back potentially starting. Another tight end down, but I'm still not panicking whatsoever. Let's take a look at running back as well. See, like this is a point in the draft for me where I think you can probably deviate and go receiver over running back, but you can certainly argue it either way. Let's go Hunter Renfrow. Let's do it. My guts tell me let's go Renfrow. Then let's go running back at 75. For me, it's either Dameon Pierce or AJ Dillon at 75. Those are two backs. Pierce ranked at 92. AJ Dillon ranked at 125. Realistically, when it comes down to a real draft, those guys aren't going to be available at this point in the draft. They are getting, I mean, Pierce is going like in the 6th round in real drafts, and AJ Dillon is probably going by the 6th round as well. So for the sake of today's mock, I think they're both steals at where we're selecting them. So quarterback starting to thin out a little bit. We see Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts off of the board. I'm still not panicking. I still think we've got a really good shot at landing a Joe Burrow and or Trey Lance. Dak Prescott is off the board. Still not panicking. Let's take Dameon Pierce here. And I think really regardless, we're going to end up with a great roster. I'm really happy at how things are shaking out. I think we could even go receiver at 86 and still be happy with who we land at quarterback as a whole. Tight end, Goddard's my guy that I really want to land. I think we can land him at 95. We'll see what happens. So we'll keep an eye on Dallas Goedert. If we don't land him, then I'm just going to fade tight end and go Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, or Cole Kmet. Even if we just, whether we draft one of those guys or two of those guys, I'm happy with the tight end position, right? Like I said, if you miss out on that top tier tight end, I think it's just best to take a large breather, stack up at running back and receiver, and come back to the position a little bit later on in the draft. So looking at receivers, I love Elijah Moore. I don't think he'll be available at 86. I would really like D-Hop on this roster as well. Brandon Ayuk holds some good value here. Robert Woods holds good value. Tyler Boyd holds good value, but don't forget that through ESPN, George Pickens is ranked really low, and I think he holds phenomenal value, even in a 10-man draft as well. So taking a look at things, I think it may be time to just go ahead and get quarterback and tight end out of the way as Joe Burrow's off of the board here. Let's get our tight end in Dallas Goedert, and then let's see what quarterback falls out to 95. And that might put us out of the running to get D-Hop. I don't know. Part of me is thinking about going quarterback in the 11th and seeing if we can land a Trey Lance. There's just a lot of players right here that I really like. DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Dillon. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough. Brandon Ayuk is gone. Antonio Gibson is gone. Cordell Patterson's gone. We'll see who is the selection here. It's AJ Dillon. That kind of helps because I really was tempted to just go with AJ Dillon. I mean, having Dillon as an RB5 would be absolutely beautiful. So Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford are all sitting here. It's tough because a lot of these teams are, there's a potential a lot of them go double running back or double quarterback, excuse me. And there's a chance we can land Trey Lance. So let's go D-Hop and let's see what happens. Let's see if we can land Trey Lance at 106 as Aaron Rodgers is gone. And for me, if you do land Trey Lance, then I think it's perfectly fine to turn around and get a guy like Derek Carr as well and come out of your draft with two quarterbacks. But let's take a look at the roster so far. We got Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, Etienne, and Pierce at running back. Not entirely done at the running back position. I still think there's some good value we can land throughout this draft. We've got JJ, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Hunter Renfrow, and Hopkins at the receiver position. I think we're in a really good spot at wide receiver. My main target for this draft is George Pickens to bring a rookie receiver to this squad. Okay, let's get Trey Lance. I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with it. And then there's a couple ways we could shake out the end of this draft as we've kind of deviated, from that bounce back method of RB receiver and just kind of gone. We've moved around a little bit, so to speak. So Tyler Boyd sitting here, I think, is the best value on the board. We could get a second tight end as well. We could go with a second quarterback. Well, Derek Carr is gone, so we're rolling with Trey Lance season. Let's go Tyler Boyd here. And then Dawson Knox sitting here is another player that I absolutely love. But Tyler Boyd is just, I mean, regardless if you're in an 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 team league, I think there's an argument to draft Tyler Boyd no matter what. So I love his value in full PPR there. So Dawson Knox is sitting here. I mean, I still want George Pickens on this team. I think there's a lot of value sitting at running back as well. I mean, I think we're in a decent spot at running back with 4. Let's take a second tight end for the sake of today's mock. Let's take Dawson Knox for some upside at the position. And I think that's I think that's actually a really good move. So then we'll take George Pickens with our final selection. If we did go with a 5th running back, it's Alexander Madison, Darrell Henderson, Khalil Herbert, or Tyler Algier for me. But truthfully, with Dameon Pierce, Etienne, Barkley, and Fournette, I think we're in a perfectly fine place to take an additional receiver and get George Pickens. The other thing we could have done there is get an additional quarterback. But all things considered, we're rolling with Trey Lance season. We got Goddard and Dawson Knox at tight end, so I think we're in a great spot at tight end. Running back, we end up with Fournette, Barkley, Etienne, and Dameon Pierce. I'm not entirely against that running back room whatsoever, even if we only have 4. Okay, looking at the end of the draft, trying to decide, do I want to go kicker or defense first? Let's take the positional advantage. Let's go with kicker because you can always stream a defense at the end of the day. Looking at receivers, I think this is really where we hold the most value in this draft. JJ, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Hunter Renfrow, D-Hop, Tyler Boyd, and George Pickens. I mean, we have a lot of receivers on this team and a ton of value at the receiver position. Usually I go with an additional running back and 1 less receiver, and probably, truthfully, 2 more running backs to make it 6 receivers, 6 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 QB, but we kind of move things around. We end up with 2 tight ends. I'm fine with that. All right, looking at available defenses, we'll just go with the Rams defense. The Broncos sitting there, the Chargers. There's some other good options. We'll go with the Rams defense for the sake of today's mock. I think there's certainly an argument for some of those other defenses. All right, here's a final look at the team. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of today's mock as a whole. And if you guys have any mock draft requests or questions pertaining to the 2022 fantasy football season also. All right, final look at the team. JJ, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, Mike Williams, Etienne, Gabe Davis, Hunter Renfrow, Dameon Pierce, Dallas Goedert, D-Hop, Trey Lance, Tyler Boyd, Dawson Knox, George Pickens, Justin Tucker, and the Rams defense. I would be perfectly happy with this team in a 10-team format moving into the season. And that'll do it for today's video. With that, I got nothing else to say. But thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you guys saw it here on The Catch.